I never could live a lie. I said too much and let it get the best of me until it took the rest of me. I thought it was worth the fight, to fight for what's right, to right all the wrongs, to say it in our songs, to know we belong. No one understands, they don't have the desire, got their hands in the fire, and I do it again. We give it all we can, all we have is desire, got their hands in the fire, we burn ourselves and never say, never say, never say, never again. I never say, never say, never say, never again. I learned more from one enemy than from 1,000 friends. That heaven takes care of the fools and scoundrels in the end. You learn more from one lie than
Greetings,
from 1,000
space travelers. Welcome home. You've just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I am your host, Mr. Rob G. And tonight we're broadcasting to you on the terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, KPNL, and Odyssey Radio. Remember, you can access our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio and at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SOR Newswire, get some official Spaced Out swag, plus you can rock out to some Bumblefoot and oh so much more. Welcome to the After Hours. Welcome to the show. We're going to have a great show tonight. We're going to have our guest, Debz Shakti, great friend, coming in. Awesome conversation. And kind of talking about enlightenment and just where we're going, you know, what type of energy we need to be putting out there. It's going to be a great conversation. Can't wait to get into this tonight. Definitely want to thank everyone for joining us here. And who do we have in our medal positions? Looks like Race Fan with the gold, Deb from Sacramento with the silver, and Eternity Eternal with the bronze. Oh, okay, that's nice. Definitely glad to see you guys coming in. Appreciate you being the first ones in as well. Deb from Sac saying, howdy, Rob G. I just sent over trivia and howdies to all. Thank you, Deb from Sac, for coming on in and gracing us with your presence here tonight. We got Eternity Eternal saying, hi, Rob G. Thanks for coming on in, Eternity Eternal. Hey, right back to you. We got Christine saying, hi, Robbie G. Hi, people. Love. Smiley face emojis. See you at 8. And it's that time, Christine. Let's get it in. We got Roger Murray. June 30th, 1969, 55th anniversary UFO newspaper service started. News clippings around the world regarding UFO sightings. We appreciate you, Roger Murray, for keeping us informed, as you always do. And thanks for coming on in here tonight. Who else do we have? We have Penny. Penny is in here saying, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Penny. Thanks for showing up here tonight on the After Hours on a Saturday. We're definitely getting it in tonight. Who else do we have? Susan Alloway. Susan Alloway saying, hello, everyone. Hey, Susan Alloway. Thanks for coming on in. Thanks for hanging out with us here tonight. We appreciate you showing up. Once again, yes, Race Fan saying good evening, Rob. Good evening, right back to you, Race Fan. Thanks for coming on in. Thanks for showing up. Jim, thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you. Thanks for supporting the show tonight. We got Jessica S. Jessica S. is in the building saying, hi, Mr. Rob G. Mods, chatters, guests, Debz Shakti. Happy Saturday. Love to all. Right back to you. That's the energy that we need in here tonight. Really do appreciate you showing up and bringing that energy. Let's see. Corey is in the building. Yes, he is, saying, you the man, Mr. Rob G. You the man, Corey, or the lady. We still haven't gotten that one straight. But definitely want to thank you for coming on in here. We do appreciate you showing up. Who else do we have here? We have Lars Jansen saying good morning all. Good morning, Lars. Thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you showing up at the after hours tonight. Invisible Tracker with the cool shades. Appreciate you coming in, Invisible Tracker. Thanks for showing up to the show tonight. Let's see. Bim Jim says, please comment on his videos. If you haven't been over to Bim Jim, check out his videos and leave him a comment. Leave him a comment as requested. Thanks for coming in. Let's see. Who else do we have here? We have Paula Foss. Paula Foss saying, hello, everyone. Hello, Paula Foss. Thanks for showing up tonight. Gory Tiger saying, what's up with the horns? I see you. Gory Tiger. Thanks for coming on in tonight. Welcome to the show, saying greetings. Greetings right back to you. Thanks for coming on in. Let's see. Who else do we have? We got Aloha Dave. Saludos a todo de Mexico. Greetings to everyone from Mexico, right? Like I say, Aloha Dave is keeping us bilingual always, so you can learn a little Spanish. Why not, right? Why not? Let's see. Coming on down the list, who else has shown up here? Yeah, W. Decker. W. Decker's definitely in the building, saying howdy, everybody. Hey, right back to you, W. Decker. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for supporting the show tonight. We appreciate you, man. We really, really do. Who else do we have? Melvin from Mars saying hello, SOR family. Hey, Melvin from Mars. Thanks for showing up. It's another Saturday. We're here. Seems like time just flies by, right? Because I swear, it was like yesterday. I was just sitting up here talking about welcome and talking about Saturday. So, yeah, I don't know. Appreciate you coming in, though. Let's see. Who else do we have? We have the guest in the back, Debz Shakti, saying, hey, everyone, can't wait to talk to you all tonight. And make sure you get some really good questions set up for Debz tonight. This conversation is going to go the way that it goes, and we would love your input. We would definitely love you guys inputting your opinions and knowledge into the conversation. Who else do we have? I just saw him. Where is he at? I just saw him. There he goes. Carl Bittner. Cannot forget Carl Bittner. Hi, Rob, Debz, and all you spacey after hours spaced out peeps. Appreciate you, Carl Bittner, coming in. This is the type of energy I like. I like it, when it gets like this. And Deb from SAC, first one out the gate with the super chat. We appreciate you saying, let's get this party started. Sweet Robbie G. We're going to do it. We're going to do that just for you, Deb, just for you. I'm pointing at you, just for you. Definitely. So let's go down the list and see. Super crazy movie geek saying, what about me? Cry face. Oh, no. Super crazy movie. Let's stop for a second. Super crazy movie geek. Thank you so much for coming in tonight. I appreciate you. Thank you. So hopefully that frown turns upside down. Who else do we have here? We got Richard Minnick saying good evening. Good evening, Richard Minnick. Thanks for coming on in. We do appreciate you showing up to the show tonight. Tamothman is out there saying, Roger, hello. Hey, Tamothman, thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you. And also, thanks for your support, W. Decker, saying have a great show, everybody. Thank you so much for your support of Spaced Out Radio. We do appreciate you, sir. Let's see. We are moving down the list, and I think we are current. Are we current? Yes, we are current. Wow. Okay. All right. So we're going to get right into what we do on a Saturday, every Saturday. Some people feel certain ways about the weekly review, but some people really appreciate it. We're going to keep doing it because we promote SOR all the time here. So without further delay, let's hop into the SOR time machine and go back in time and see the week that was Spaced Out Radio. You guys kick back. If you missed anything, make sure you go into our archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio and watch any of these episodes that you may have missed this week. Here we go.
Lon, as you get reports coming on in, I love how you write them out because you're not changing the words, you're not changing the testimony that people give you, you're not massaging it in order to make eh, something look a little bit more exaggerated. Why do you keep it the exact way when so many others change it?
All right. Well, I look at it this way: if they're willing to come forward and give me their story, I'm going to present it the way they gave it to me. I don't want to embellish it. I don't want their story coming to me as being embellished, and I'm not going to embellish it myself. That's just not the way to do it. Um,
So
most people I'm associated with are the same way.
why do you think so many others do?
They do. I know. I don't know why. I guess they suppose it's going to I don't know. It's going to impress more readers and build their, and maybe it does. I don't know if it does or not. The biggest problem right now with especially stories that are read on the internet or on YouTube or such, unfortunately, and I think it's a high percentage, very high percentage. A lot of that's AI. A lot of these people generate stories through AI and they read it. And you can tell when you're reading it or listening to it that it's not coming from an actual report. It's something that's been generated by AI or some other means. And I just hope, look, I understand people want to be entertained. I get that. And, there's we talked about this before. There's a lot of people that are doing this, reading stuff to get a lot of subscribers, get a lot of money on YouTube, make a lot of money doing it like that. But they're not getting reports for the most part. They're getting stuff that's generated. And I'm not going to do that. I'm never going to fall into that trap.
You have been to numerous hotspots filming and trying to find evidence of Sasquatch. To this date, what is the best evidence you have seen and how did it happen?
Well, I went to the UP of Michigan, and that was one of my first investigations. I was taken out there, and we found this giant tree X. So this X was massive, 25 feet tall. These logs were massive, and there was a big log put on top. So me, being the smartest guy on the planet, I'm like, turn to all the researchers and say, hey, I'm going to sleep. I'm going to put a hammock underneath the tree X. I'm going to sleep there. And of course, they're all like, you're crazy. We believe that the X stands for don't go past here. This is our territory. So I'm like, yeah, okay. So that night, first off, when we were walking toward, so it was like, must have been midnight, and we're walking towards for the end of the night to go to bed. And we started smelling this really bad odor. Like, it was terrible. It was like my feet times 100. Like right now, geez, I should put my feet down. But yeah, so it went away really fast. As soon as it got there, it was gone. Then I tucked myself in, and like 2:30 in the morning, I'm lying there and I hear a crack in the forest, and I wake up and I'm like, what the heck is that? And I feel I hear it coming, and it's walking. And as it's walking, I feel the vibration of each footstep off of the hammock, the line of the hammock off the tree. And I'm like, oh, what is that? And it stops probably about 15 feet from me, and it grunted in my ear. It was like, and I was like, whoa. And I could feel the vibration off the grunt. And I started getting, so I was so scared that I started shaking uncontrollably. And I'm trying so hard to stay still. because in my head I'm thinking, okay, maybe it won't know that I'm in here, because I'm thinking, is it a bear? Is it a wild pig? Maybe, like, I didn't know what it was, but all I was thinking is, if it's really a Bigfoot, it might just hit me on the head. I'm already wrapped up like a burrito, so I could just put it over his back and just walk off into the forest.
What would you consider your position at the Hinsdale house? Like, what do you do there? Would you consider yourself a protector? Are you a tour guide? Are you a historian? How would you describe you?
Jeez. Well, in the 70s, I was a protector against all of the crazies that came up there walking through field, would come in the back door and sit at the kitchen table and say, I want to see a ghost. That's how bold people were way back then. Today, I do open for certain people. I've opened for Sam and Colby. I've opened for Nick Groff, Katrina Weedman. I've done work with them on the different networks. I'm basically, I guess, a historian. I know I'm an expert on the original story of the Dandy family. I'm one of two, Clara Miller and myself. Everybody else is, they tell the story, but they get a lot of it wrong. Even after they've heard me tell it over 5,000 times, and I've been to the house about 5,100 times. That's a lot of visits, Dave. That's a lot of visits. When I think about it, I think I'm more crazy than I thought I was. But I'm a historian on basically on the Dandy family story. And I hope to be an historian on everything that happened up there from 1853 when the house was built till today. And there's a lot of in-betweens that we're still working on, a lot of history we're looking for. The McMahon family, which the house is on the road named McMahon. It was named after the family. They lived there for approximately 100 years, from 53, actually 61. Michael McMahon first bought the house in 1861, and his family continued to live there up until about 19, I want to say 1962, 1963. So there's a lot of stuff going on there, but it's all the stuff in between. And like I said, Father Al had told us that a priest had cleansed this house in the 20s. So were the McMahon family, were they having problems? We don't know.
You've talked to people who have had encounters with ghosts, monsters, UFOs, aliens. What do they all have in common the first time they see that monster?
Honestly, I think for many people, myself included, the first encounter is usually one of disbelief. Frequently, it's a short encounter and it doesn't quite compute. And so it's usually after the second or third like sighting. Okay, so a cousin of mine who they might be listening tonight. Hi, Michael Jason. He has regular encounters with Bigfoot, as do his children. And I believe even his wife has had heard or seen a couple of things. And I think what happens is the first time you can sort of explain it away. The second time you start really questioning about the first time. And by the third time, you're a believer. That doesn't mean that things aren't scary. I think anything unknown is typically scary for people. I am not afraid of monsters at all. Because I think that when I've encountered something that has been like more on that spectrum, like a more threatening spectrum, first of all, I look at the company I keep. That's the number one thing I do. If I'm in a situation and I'm with anyone else and something happens, then I take that as a warning, and then I take it as a personal warning to myself. Not that this monster is a problem, but that I should recheck my surroundings, who I trust. So I guess like I'm just so locked into the world of all these old stories, and almost the same story again and again and again, different century, same story, that I can't help but plus the very sort of uh esoteric side of me. I always think these things are for a reason, and it's a very sacred experience, and there's some kind of lesson there. So now, am I going to go seeking some kind of swamp monster? Honestly, probably not, and I'll tell you why. Because if I was the swamp monster, I wouldn't want a bunch of people coming through annoying me with cameras and probes. Sometimes you just have to respect the monster and give the monster some space, and then maybe the monster will make itself known.
It had like the entire body and a different color. Like it was like showing up, like,
Oh yeah,
like, like as if you're looking at like a body. Okay.
exactly.
So,
Had the head, and the broad shoulders, and
mhm,
the arms and the legs standing there, just facing
yeah.
us,
And
looking
it's
directly
heated.
at us.
Like you can see the heat
Oh
signature
yeah,
on there. You can see it. Okay. So of course, we're gonna go down there. So of course we're walking down the road, and I wanted to take it slow because I didn't want to lose it. Okay. So we
yeah.
would take a few steps and I would look and I would go, okay, it's still there, let's go. And then I would like take a few steps and I make sure I can still see it. And that thing stayed on there the entire time we walked down that road. Well, just
Almost
as we get close to that tree, it's like it just kind of dissipates into
and
the tree,
phased
like as
out.
if now fades out, like we're looking at a tree. And I'm like, there's no way.
Uh
There's
huh.
no way because a tree just looks like a tree. And when you're scanning it around, all you see are trees, 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 trees. And this one's got a full blown like body standing there, a very
Exactly.
large body standing
Right.
there.
Yeah, and
And so,
I
yeah,
come
go
from
ahead.
more of a scientific background. Like, I need to see it. I need to understand it. I'm
Mhm.
trying to rationalize it. That's what I do. When I'm coming across anything that could possibly be a UFO or whatever the case may be, I need to understand it. I can't just accept it outright. I need as much evidence as I can possibly get. So that's how I come at things. So I'm like, what the heck? Because this thing looked like a full body apparition standing there, and big,
Mhm.
big. So
Large.
we get up to it and it just fades away. You're like, what the heck? And that doesn't
Oh,
make
even the
sense.
coloring changed. It went from like
Yeah.
really bright red to like faded into like a yellow. And
Uh-huh.
then by the time you get there, it's gone.
There are some people in the field, and I think just with probably any field really, there's a group of people who simply make up stories and embellish, right? There's definitely that. What, where do you stand in that? Like, there's different elements of this. So and I have no experience with this at all, is why I'm asking, but things like mind speak and some people say that they interact with Bigfoot every day, like a human would. What is your outlook on that? Is it likely? Have you heard things like that? Like, what is your outlook
Oh
on that?
my goodness, yeah. I've spoken to people that have claimed that they've had ongoing encounters with the same family of Bigfoot since they were children. And yet there's no evidence. There's no pictures taken. There's not a clump of fur or anything like that. There's just no evidence. And you would think that if you were having, day-to-day interactions with these creatures, you would want them to be proven. I'm not saying that you would want someone to go out there and hunt them, but you would want to say, hey, look, I just want to let you know I have the answer to this question. Here's a hair, or here's a photograph or a video, whatever. So I find it very peculiar that these people are going out there and discussing this at length, sometimes even appearing at conferences and having lectures on this without any proof whatsoever. So much of this field is a bit of P.T. Barnum, people probably get in for the right reasons, but the more you're in it, I think the more you tend to elaborate, and sometimes that's not for the best. Now, as an author and researcher, and I write about things other than the paranormal, so I have kind of a reputation that I want to I keep pretty untarnished. If I'm writing in another discipline, the last thing that I want is that, there's that paranormal guy that made this stuff up. So whenever I document anything in my books, I try to make it with everybody that was there. I try to add everybody that was there and their reactions to the subject as well too. And occasionally, whenever there is something rather outlandish, I will have somebody who had also witnessed the event write their own chapter in their own words about what they had seen. I know that I did a show here with Spaced Out Radio a few years ago, and I like to read the comments because there's a lot of trolls out there. And there was one particular one that accused me of making up the stories in order to sell books. And, as much as I'm flattered that they were thinking about me in that regard, like I said, I document everything that I can in ways that there's a follow-up as well, too. So I think that for the most part, people are out there trying to get to the bottom of this. Whenever there's a little bit more of a gray area, is those people that show up out of nowhere and kind of start making quick bucks here and there because they have an experience. Remember now, no research, just an experience, but there's no corroborating evidence to go along with that experience.
All right, that was the SOR Week in Review. So once again, awesome content. If you miss any of those shows, you can jump right into our archive, youtube.com/spaced out radio, and get your fix in, get your fill in. Because once again, we do this 7 days a week, pretty much 365. So we'd appreciate if you go ahead and support by rewatching some of the old stuff that you may have missed. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into the show. Our guest here for tonight is a professional quantum hypnotherapist, open channel into CE5, has a really great energy, and I always love speaking with this next guest, and I'm going to go ahead and bring her in. I know you guys all know who this is. Ladies and gentlemen, Debz Shakti. Hello, Debz. How are you?
Hi, Rob. Hi, everybody. It's so good to be here again. Thank you for having me.
So glad to have you back here. And we're real quick. I want to stop and just say, hey, the Last Key Hustle. Thanks for the awesome support tonight. Thank you for the super chat. SOR appreciates it. Dave, I'm sure, appreciates it. And to answer the question that was in the chat, that was Melvin from Mars, who says, has Dave checked in with you, Rob? Not yet. So that's a good thing. That means everything's going well. It means either that or he became a Bigfoot burrito, and we won't find out until maybe, tomorrow or some other day, when whoever survives to come back to tell the tale. So, Debz, definitely glad to have you here. Like I say, you always bring great energy. You always talk about the right stuff. And it's refreshing to be able to have those sort of conversations that move this thing forward. What have you been up to? How have things been?
Things have been whirlwind busy. They seem to just get busier and busier. I retired from corporate life 2 years ago thinking, oh, this will be a breeze and I can just do what I like, as I like. And I am just working all the time. It's just been wonderful. And I've been traveling a lot lately too. So, doing retreats and, taking care of business, but there's just a lot going on in the world. And I think, just that energy is accelerating everywhere. for everyone. And for me, it just feels good. It's exciting. And I love to just grab as much of that excitement as I possibly can. But yeah, I just got back from California. I was supposed to go out and help lead some CE5s at Disclosure Fest. And the day before I was supposed to leave, they closed it down because of the wildfires.
Yeah.
But it was a blessing for me anyway. I got to go out and spend more time with my family. I'm originally from there, so from Southern California. So it turned out to be a wonderful, different kind of trip. And now I'm back and trying to catch up with everyone. So
yeah.
But,
Yeah, I wanted to go. It's an hour. It was an hour south of me. It's right in the Grapevine, and I'm like in Bakersfield, so I'm like right here. So I wanted to go so bad, and then they canceled it, and I was like, but I guess it was due to wildfires up there. So what can you do? What can you do?
Nothing. Yeah, they just took over like Castiac. The fire services did the base of operations, and then we found out it was getting really close to that lake too. So it's probably good.
And that's where I stop at between here and LA. Excuse me, when I stop at Lake Hughes right there, and we go stop and get some McDonald's or whatever before we go to LA. So yeah, so I was like, it's right here. But I wanted to say this because I know last time we talked, you had mentioned, and we all sat and gave prayers and healing energy for John Yost, who's a good friend of yours. And, unfortunately, he passed on.
Yes.
And since then, so we want to definitely send love out there, condolences for yourself. And, the community lost a person who was really trying to put this on the forefront. And, when that happened, I thought of you immediately, and it was just like, man, really hit kind of hard.
Yeah, it hit all of us really hard. We fought real hard to help to keep him alive. For those of you who didn't know who he was the filmmaker of the movie Alien Abduction Answers. I think I got a copy back there, sitting back there by my radio, which is going crazy right now.
Yeah.
The beings they're communicating with us right now through that radio. It's very cool. I've got it turned down so they don't go crazy, but you can see the lights. But anyway, he was a filmmaker, and my very best guy friend outside of my marriage. We worked really hard together on that film. It features his story of alien abduction when he was a little child and how it affected his life. And then my work with him and all of the experiencers in the movie, except for Whitley Strieber, who is, his own entity, as we all know. But John, we were getting ready to make the second of 3 films. We were in the middle of it, actually. It was supposed to be a trilogy, and then he found out he had aggressive pancreatic cancer, and we spent the whole last year, 2023, trying to get him well again. And he fought a really good fight. It just wasn't meant to be. But the dude has not left me alone since he passed out of this plane. He just saying the mission is still on. Don't sit on your laurels. I'm helping you from this plane. And so I really don't know how it's going to come about. And I'm just kind of going with the flow on it. But he was out to change the world. And I think he really did. That film has touched so many hearts. It really has. It's a deeply moving film for anybody who hasn't seen it. You can stream it just about anywhere. So, and I think it's even free on Tubi, by the way. So
yeah, it was really heavy. And and like I said, I thought of you immediately. And it was just like, wow. And yeah, I would recommend people who haven't seen it, definitely go back, and you'll see him featured in a lot of different things, interviews on talk shows, and kind of maybe go back and get to know who he was, so you can see the mission that he was on, and kind of you'd appreciate it more, I'm sure, with the word.
Including Spaced Out Radio. He was on Spaced Out Radio a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
I think even once with me. So yeah.
Yeah, I may have to pull an archive and run an archive next week. I think I'll do that.
Oh, right. Cool.
Yeah. I can say, since we know that there's a lot of proof or evidence, I'll say, that there's another realm and there's another side. So, I think the good thing is that he has the answers now. Like, he knows, I'm sure he's like, well, I knew it. Like, I knew this is exactly what I thought. So I think that's kind of cool that he gets to have the answers now at this point. Yeah, you said he hasn't been leaving you alone. So have you been experiencing paranormal activity or?
Oh yeah. Well, I channel. I'm an open channel, and so I receive messages for other people all the time, and do mediumship. But literally, I think it was 2 days after he passed away. I was sitting in meditation, and he just literally came in. I mean, it's just like he's physical. He had a nickname. We had a nickname for each other. It was Bunky, and it was just a silly little private joke, but he's a big, grand man in his prime. And he was just standing in front of me. And when I was sitting for meditation, he's like, Bunky, you've had a couple of days to, feel sorry for yourself and to be sad, but it's time to get back to work. The mission's not over. And so, I mean, and I see signs from him sometime too. He was quite the Irish man. He was American, but Irish heritage, and his favorite color was emerald green. And about every day, when in my office, when I am able to notice it, at about 3 p.m. every day, there is a bright green orb that just comes in through one of my windows and just moves around the room. And I know it's just him saying hi. I have tried really hard to debunk that it is an orb, thinking, oh, it's a reflection, or it's, something casting off of something in the room or the window. But no, it comes from different places and it goes all over the room. So he comes in many forms, but often just, I just hear his voice, I see him, and he gives me ideas, and I just go with them. So he's been a really good guide. When he was alive, he called me his guardian angel because I worked with him so closely and helped him through some things with my quantum hypnosis practice and the energy work and all of that. And now I think the roles have reversed. I think he's my guardian angel. He's always given me advice. And there have been a couple of times where I think he's actually saved my booty, like out on the highway and stuff. It's been kind of incredible. So we're still good friends.
Now that is heavy. That is deep as well. And so I'm sure that gives you that kind of, reignites fire that was already there. It kind of just adds more fuel to that fire, I'm sure, in order to continue on this mission that you're on. So, once again, condolences there. And definitely shout out to John Yost. I before we talked last time, I come to know him through those documentaries and things. So I never met him actually, but I kind of feel like I could pick up on his energy, you know what I mean? And what type of person I felt that he was. And you kind of confirm that with the things that you say. So, and speaking of those orbs, right? So since we've talked, I've had some crazy things going on with me.
Cool.
With some orbs here at this house. With Spaced Out Radio, we went out to Virginia City, to Reno, for the fan party. And I had some orbs that maybe came from there. I don't know, because we went to the Virginia City ghost on a ghost tour right after Reno. Yeah. And Science Bob and Lala, they said they took something home, some sort of like hitchhiker effect.
Hitchhiker, yeah.
And when I got back home, like maybe within a week, our Ring cameras just started going off,
Mhm.
and they were picking up these orbs that were flying around the room,
Mhm.
which was insane. And so I felt like, when I looked at that, I was trying to determine what those things potentially were. Like, is it something from the other side? Is it potentially extraterrestrial related? Or is it related to the phenomenon that I've already been experiencing here, which is shadow people? But when what you just told me about the blue or the green orb, that actually makes me feel like potentially it's like a loved one from the other side, because
Yeah.
with the time that we've been here, we did my we lost my mother-in-law, and we have a shrine set up for her in the living room.
Mhm.
And I kind of feel like, I don't know, but when I hear something like that, it kind of makes me think.
Yeah, well, we may have talked about this before, and for the listeners who are new to me, I'm very spiritual. I'm kind of right down the middle, split between spirituality and science, and I'm a huge quantum physics person. I study science all the time, and I work with a lot of top scientists in the field. And what I can say, for me anyway, my perspective on life is that all of these different things are not so different. They're just different forms of the same energy, which includes us. They're all consciousness, right? So orbs, ETs, angels, our ancestors, our loved ones, even fairy folk, you name it, Bigfoot, they're all the same thing. They're just different versions of consciousness. And so are we. And we're all connected through quantum entanglement, through the quantum field. So, but they express in different ways. I've always felt like orbs they're twofold. They show the heart of a consciousness. They're kind of the exemplification, if you will, of someone's heart. But also they are the fastest and easiest vehicle to travel between any 2 points in the field in non-local consciousness. And so when we see orbs, I believe that they are someone's condensed soul, if you will, their heart, their consciousness coming through a multidimensional field to interact with you. And there's always some kind of an interaction, whether it's just getting your attention, or maybe it's bringing you healing, or it's bringing you inspiration, or a download, or an answer. I believe that the orbs are very, very powerful forms of consciousness.
Yeah, what made me think about this is when it happened to me, I went and researched other situations where people had caught these orbs on Ring cameras, and I found a lot of them.
Oh, yes.
And so it led me to believe then that if this many were caught on film, how many aren't caught on film? And then I started thinking about how these things are probably everywhere. Like they're probably all over the place at every time. You know what I mean?
Yes. They are, just like all consciousness is.
Yeah.
Everything, from a quantum physics perspective, just a little science lesson for those who haven't heard it before, everything is made of energy. And it's all made of the same energy, but it expresses in different ways via its vibrational frequency. So depending on how fast or slow it's moving, vibrating, if we just take the subject of water is a liquid, it's H2O, it's hydrogen and oxygen put together. And so it's a liquid. But if you put it in the freezer, the molecules, the atoms slow down in their vibrational state and they become a solid, but it's still H2O. You put it in a pan on a hot stove, it turns back into a liquid, and then it turns into steam and evaporates, and it's a gas. So it's all still the same energy, but it's changed its form and function via its vibrational state. So, and all of that, all of life is the same energy, but it's changed by its vibrational state, and that's how it expresses, including us. And it all exists in one place all the time, forever. If you get your mind around that. And that's the big brain buster, you know. So how do we describe all these things? Well, as humans in the third dimensional space, the way we describe it is we made up a thing called time, and we made up a thing called space, distance. And so we can measure, oh, this existed yesterday, but it doesn't exist here today, at least from my perspective. But it's just kind of cherry picking. So in my work, in quantum hypnosis especially, I can help a person get really relaxed and very balanced. I mean, you have to have some balance in your being, in your own vibrational state, to be able to, access any bit of information from the quantum field, because it's still all you. It's just expressing in different forms and functions. So we can go back in time, if you want to use that word, or we can go forward into the future, or we can look at the, infinite versions of you, whether that's your ET self, or yourself as a rock, or yourself as a light beam or an orb. We can access all of that, and it's all real. But what's incredible is, in this process, you go to exactly where you need to go to get the answers you need or the healing you need. It's all run by the soul, by kind of like the overbeing. And so we just go along for the ride and pick up the information, and incredible things happen. Sorry to go off tangent there, but I just say, those orbs, they're another form of you communicating with yourself.
Yeah, and going into that, because like you just stated, the way we perceive time, the way we look at time, I thought about that because I think about a lot of stuff. And when I thought about time, the closest thing that I could point to that would be something maybe everyone has experienced is if you've stayed up for a couple days straight, like if for whatever you couldn't go to sleep, stayed up 2 days straight, and you don't remember what day it is, you lose track of the day, what day it is. And I think that's because our days are broken up by sleep cycles, and that's kind of how we look at time. So we look at it as yesterday, like it's a separate thing from today, although it's a continuous thing. It's a continuous line.
Yes.
That is unbroken, and we just separate it by sleep cycles. And it's in the energy thing. So I had a theory as well on that, and it was how energy is everywhere. It powers the universe. It powers everything from us all the way to the opposite end of the universe.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling like, because people say, okay, the consciousness doesn't live in the brain. And I'm thinking, okay, well, what is the brain's purpose? And what theory that I came up with is that the brain is what allows the body to receive the energy to animate us. So it's almost like the plug on a lamp, right? You plug it in the wall and you tap in to the energy, and it allows the light to shine. And so when you pass, you're unplugging that light from the power source, but the energy still exists. The energy is still there continuously and all the time. And so that's, and I was trying to think of, okay, so the brain isn't the thing that holds the conscious, then how could we explain that? And I think that might be a way to do it, almost like wireless charging, even.
Yeah.
Like the brain is what you need to be able to receive the energy to animate the body. Crazy.
It's the bridge. It's the bridge. I like to tell people that this body that we have, it's a spacesuit for us, right? We are consciousness, but to experience life in a valid way in the third dimensional experience here, we have to have a spacesuit, or we wouldn't be able to, we wouldn't have feelings, we wouldn't have sensory stuff. We're consciousness. So we put on this spacesuit, and the operating system of the spacesuit is the brain, right? And then, our eyes are kind of the visor or the viewing windshield of that spacesuit, if you will, and so forth. And it's kind of a rudimentary spacesuit compared to who we really are. We're unlimited, infinite beings. And so the brain that is the operating system, it's also pretty small. I compare it to a flash drive, that you plug into your computer with just a little bit of information. It mostly has information to keep the spacesuit running correctly, right? And not get run over by a car or something. But if the brain is the flash drive, our consciousness is the cloud. Everything exists in the cloud, right? And we have access to that. You just need to learn the right search terms to type into the window there. But I love your explanation of it being like the charging port or the plug, because it is the bridge. The brain is kind of the bridge between true consciousness and the physical experience.
Yeah.
And so once we decide to unplug, it doesn't mean that we cease to exist. We're still existing. We're just viewing it from a different perspective. And I must say, I've had 2 near-death experiences, so I can pretty much tell you the truth, because they were both very similar. But when we leave this place, when we take off our spacesuit, we realize just how limited our perspective is in that spacesuit. If you think about our astronauts who are walking around those big clunky spacesuits, and they have a pretty big visor, but your field of vision is still pretty limited, right? You're just kind of looking ahead. That's kind of how we're seeing things. And so we become very polarized by what we are looking at, and we think that's reality, and it's just a little tiny speck of reality. So it's a cool subject to get into. I could talk for hours about it, but I'm sure we have other things to talk about. But I love your explanation of the brain. I think it's really cool.
Wow, appreciate that. And with you saying that with the cloud, because the thing is that, like, we can talk about this and understand what we're saying because we're thinking the same thing. But for someone else out there that may not be thinking like that, it's cool to be able to put together a scenario that they can visualize and be like, oh, okay, I get it now. I get it. And I think, like, with downloads, it's as simple, like, something to explain that would be as simple as a smart device, an iPad, accessing Wi-Fi, right? And being able to pull that out of the air. Like, we can do that with the device, right? So we can, that's essentially what you're talking about as far as being able to download from this cloud. And then it just makes so much sense that, of course we can do that. It just makes sense.
I think it's so cool. We explain these things in the metaphors of the time that we are living as human beings. If you would have asked someone to explain this, 1,000 years ago, they would have explained it, in a different way, probably using terms like gods or spirits or whatever, and that bespeaks separation, but where there really is no separation of anything. It's all one thing, just like our body is made up of trillions of cells, right? And each cell is very unique in what it does. There are types of cells that work together to form different functions, like maybe running your heart or your lungs or whatever, or your blood, but they're still part of that one big thing. And that's really what we are. So I talk a lot about this because there's so much divisiveness in our world. In the third dimension, especially human beings, for some reason, we got polarized into thinking there's good and there's bad, there's light and there's dark, it's all about categorization and what is closest to being similar to me is safe. It feels safe, right? Anything that is different is suspect, and anything that's unknown that we don't know anything about is to be feared. That's kind of how we're brought up, but it's absolutely untrue because we're all part of it. We're all part of each other. And the main set of beings that I channel, the star teachers, say this all the time. They're very highly advanced beings, but they say that they're us on a higher frequency. And so what they say is that the only way to, I hate to use the word ascend, but jump ahead to get up, into the higher frequencies, like where they exist, where there is no, negative dichotomy, where there is no fear or anger or greed or all of those things, is we have to learn how to love each other for who each of us is, unique cells of the same body, and work together. And once we do that, then we jump up to that higher frequency. And they say that we do that because we've already done that, or they wouldn't exist. Again, another kind of mind infinite loop, but I on the days where everything seems to be going wrong in the world and all you hear is fear and hatred and anger and sadness, I have to remember that they say that we've already done it, that we do it. And here's the kicker, Rob, and everybody listening. The last few years, the last 10 years, they have said, we do it in this lifetime, in this timeline. So what we're living right now, it feels like it's going really fast. It feels like everything is just kind of caving in and falling apart and all that. That's on purpose because we're getting ready to make that jump. They say more than likely we have to kind of come really close to a catastrophe on a global scale before we decide to do this. But we do it. And that gives me so much hope for humanity. It really does.
Yeah. And that's kind of what it takes. We've built ourselves so far into this thing that we call regular or normal society and it's so far away from where we're supposed to be. And I gotta think that any ETs that are aware of this and are taking notes or taking notice of what we're doing, tracking us, have to have like a proud moment, right? When they see us doing like what we're doing now with enlightening conversations and kind of expanding our consciousness and our abilities. They have to be sitting back like, yeah, they're getting it. They're getting it.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel that. Have you noticed because as coming up as a kid, before I fully kind of opened my mind into this, I would see other people like use meditation and things of that nature. So there was already an element of people trying to enlighten other people, but I don't know if it was a real thing, like if it was on a large level. And within your lifetime, have you noticed it growing, that whole enlightenment concept growing amongst humanity?
Yes, and it's growing and expanding exponentially. You know, I was born in the 50s. I'm really a pretty old person compared to most of your listeners, and to you. But you know, my growing up years, my formative years were during like the hippie revolution, right? And that's kind of when the civil rights movement, all of those, and you know, women's rights and all kinds of things were going on at that time. And then it just kind of propelled us into a continuously accelerating expansion. People's minds keep opening more and more. And with that, their hearts keep opening more and more. And they're questioning things all the time. You know, what used to be everybody's comfort zone, especially here in the United States, you know, where everybody, you know, kind of had some decent abundance. Most people did. They didn't want to rock the boat because they didn't want things to change. And so you hear a lot of people talking about going back to the good old days, you know, when such and such happened. Well, these are the good old days, my friend, because we are literally creating something new every single day, each of us. And I think it's very imperative. And again, this is another message that comes through the teachers and many other very wise channeled beings. The way we do this is not by fighting. It's not by revolting or anything. It's by being the very best you can be. And it turns viral. If everybody was just the best person that they could be and very conscious of how they affect everything in their world around them, and is just acting very loving and motivated to help each other, the world would change overnight, and it will change overnight. Watch it. It's like we're almost about to hit critical mass. I'm sure you can feel it. For most people, it feels scary. It feels like pressure. It feels like everything's about to explode, but it has to before something new can be built.
You're totally right. And actually, that's what drives me. That right there. So we're going to go ahead and stop real quick, take a pause for the cause as we get ready to jump into our break and come back with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio. You guys don't go anywhere. Stay right there. Don't move.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 2 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G, as we go ahead and get ready to jump into the conversation or back into the conversation. But first, space travelers, you're already traveling space. Your space travelers already. Consider taking the next step and join the club. That's right. You can join our Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers Club for as little as $5 by going on over to our Patreon. Consider doing that if you wouldn't mind, as we go ahead and get back with our guest here, Debz Shakti. Debz, okay, yeah, we're in some awesome stuff there. CE5 real quick, because you know, when we left Virginia City, we did a Skywatch right after that with Melinda Leslie and Jax Lee, Dave Scott, bunch of other people were there. And we tried to, well, the intention was there, I guess, to trying to bring something in. Unfortunately, we didn't have any luck. So I was hoping Debz Shakti would have been there to be the one to summon in the craft. So we'll have to set something up, because I need to call on your CE5 powers to kind of, you know, bring something in, because I want this to be, I still feel like it's the quickest way to disclose what's going on to the rest of the world. What have you, as far as CE5 goes, have you done anything with that lately? Have you been out on any sky watching to do this?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, for those of the listeners who don't know me, I've been an experiencer since my earliest memories, like babyhood. So, you know, CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, which means human initiated ET contact, where you actually invite them to come visit, is a fairly new concept. As far as it's almost a brand, and it was created by Dr. Stephen Greer. It's a set of protocols that really do help people connect. But basically, anyone can do it. It just takes getting quiet in a meditative state, usually, and having this, what I call heart coherence, and that's the big piece. And if you're with a group, it's really hard, especially like, you know, you guys were out there together, a lot of people coming to the big party and everything, who went out to do Skywatch or CE5, but it's difficult when you have this big group of people who have different sets of agendas or wishes or dreams about what they want to do. It takes some getting people together and bringing them into a heart and mind coherence first, so that you're of one vibrational state, and you send this kind of signal out into the quantum field where the rest of our relatives live, and invite them in. And so what I want to say too, Rob, is that people get really kind of attached to seeing the lights in the sky, or seeing a spacecraft, or actually a physical being, and thinking that that's a close encounter. But you may have had a lot of contact but didn't recognize that you had a lot of contact out there. You had some pretty cool people there with you, and I have a feeling that some stuff happened. But when I take a group out, and I do often, and I do it in not just locally, but I do it at big retreats. We teach people how to do this, how to go back home and start these things for themselves and get a group together. But it's very helpful to kind of be able to bring people together, like through a meditation. We often do some yogic things like breath work together, maybe even chanting a tone or a sound together. Sometimes we do a lot of drumming, or even some people like to dance together. Anything that brings people into that kind of oneness feeling. And when you get that, and then you send that telepathic message out to the universe, please come visit us, that's when the powerful stuff really happens. So
yeah, I think what happened was, truthfully, I think it was kind of rushed because it was at the end of the night, and we were trying to hurry to the spot. Some people were late. And I don't think, because from what I've heard, is talking to you and talking to others, that there's a whole like coming together process that needs to happen first, and kind of getting everyone on the same frequency. And I don't think that part actually happened. So I think we just probably didn't do the necessary steps to have an experience. And then we left pretty quick too.
yeah.
So after we got there, we were only there for 30, 45 minutes. So
No, we're usually out there the whole evening. We usually start a little before sunset so we can get set up. Usually we'll get into a circle, and then we'll do some of these things together. We'll lead you through some breath work, or some toning, and definitely through deep guided meditation. Sometimes we'll play special music or tones, and that puts you into the theta brainwave state. And again, we're getting into some quantum hypnosis stuff, but that's where you go. You to get into the field, you have to change your brainwave state. When you're in a hurry and you're super tired, you've had a long day or a long bunch of days, like you guys did at the party. You're rushing out to the site. It's all kind of discombobulated.
Yeah.
It feels fragmented. And so you can't get into that theta state. You're still in beta at the very least, alpha. And it's really hard to connect with beings of a higher vibrational frequency, which these beings are, when you're in that state. And they're very cognizant of that, and they're very respectful of that. If people in your group are feeling fragmented or frustrated, or any kind of a lower vibrational emotion, even if somebody there is a little afraid, especially if they're a little afraid and they don't want to admit it, they won't show up, because they're very respectful of the human psyche and their feelings. But no, next year definitely we'll try to get out there. I would love to help. That's what I was going to do at Disclosure Fest. Again, though, it's funny, the promoters were like, yeah, you can have an hour at the end of the night, after all the music's over. By then everybody's pretty wasted, and an hour it's cool and all, but it's not enough time to get everybody into coherence. You really want to have an experience, you know, and if you've been out under the lights and everything, it takes a while to even get your night vision so you can actually see what's happening in the sky and around you. But yeah, this year it just didn't work out. I had a lot of things happen that kept me from coming, but I'm really going to try next year because I was like, oh, why can't I be there? I was hearing everybody talk about how much fun they were having. So
no, what I'm gonna do is next time I see Debz Shakti on a flyer or as a guest for some, then I'm gonna go to the event so I can then be in the presence of Debz Shakti. But
well,
no, you're right. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say we do have the biggest retreat that I co-lead every year is happening the first week of September, right after Labor Day, up in Wisconsin. But it's in Wisconsin, Rob. It's a bit of a little jaunt for you, but it is the most mind-blowing thing every year. It started out, I think this is our 6th or 7th year. Started out just as a small group of people doing CE5 and learning CE5, and we call it CE5. Contact and consciousness work is really what it is, making contact in many different ways. And it's grown over the years to where we are in this year, we're teaching and having presenters come in and to show you many different ways of making contact with various means of consciousness. So if anybody's interested, you know, go to my website or go to the Facebook page. You know, all of my stuff is under Debz Shakti, except Facebook, because Facebook made me stop using Debz Shakti because they said it wasn't my legal name. So under DL Buller, but if you just go to the website, you'll connect with everything. But there, that is, we have tremendous contact at that thing, and people just come away from it going, I can't believe that this has been going on all my life and I didn't know it, you know? So, but
yeah, and I think that's actually, you know, when you think about it, you have to be in the right mindset. Like that's like the most important part. And I kind of feel like we just kind of went out there and kind of really didn't set ourselves up for success, really. In Wisconsin, that's you know, that's flatlands, right? Wide open sky sort of situation.
actually where we are is up in northern Wisconsin, up by the Canadian border, and it's in what we call the Great North Woods. It's at a lake resort that my friend Melissa owns. We're business partners, and it's a very dark sky, so you can see everything, the Milky Way, the planets, everything. It's incredible. Our location is a 360 view. It's out in the middle of a meadow that is surrounded by these forests. And so we have had Sasquatch activity as well. All kinds of beings, all sorts of paranormal stuff, but definitely ET contact. It is a hot spot, and they love connecting with us there. It's an amazing thing. So yeah. But I do them all over the place, and you know, so I can always just hit you up and let you know where I am, or people can just go to the website and find out. But we always, every time I take a group out, we have contact of some sort, and it's undeniable. It's just incredible because it's pretty easy to get people into that state of coherency when you've been doing it as long as I've been doing it, right? So, but you need more than 30 minutes. You really do.
Yeah, I want to feel that because I can, in my head, I can understand what it must feel like to be in that state, and me being a person that is open, and I feel like I'm unlocked in certain ways for certain things that I want my body to feel that, like just my being to be able to feel that. And so it's something that I have to do this year at some point. Also the regression therapy as well. So I kind of want to take myself out of body almost, you know what I mean? And that's kind of what I'm looking for this year. And I guess what we could do is lean into, with that being said, is lean into superpowers, right?
Yeah.
So what, I know what I think superpowers. What do you think is superpowers? What are superpowers, and how may we unlock them?
Everybody has all the superpowers. I just want to start with that. I was born with what we call the superpowers, or in more professional terms, the psi gifts, all turned on. They were all switched on at birth. Most humans come in and with it kind of on sleep mode, so you can have a valid human existence, of separation, limitation, physical stuff. But the way to get your superpowers or your psi gifts turned back on and to be able to work with them consciously in a beneficial way is it's pretty easy. You just have to start learning how to tune in. And so meditation of any type is a really good way. It's kind of the free way to get there. And I teach that all the time. In fact, again, guys, if even if you don't have any money to pay a teacher to learn this stuff, my website's got hundreds of hours of free stuff on it that will teach you how to do this. And you can do it with me on those videos. Just go into the media section. But happy to work with anyone. That's what I do. But the way you get those superpowers to come online again is to just make sure that you really want them and that you're not afraid. People say they want to be telepathic, or they want to be psychic, or they want to be able to move things with their minds or whatever, but deep down they're a little bit afraid, because most of us have been raised to believe that that's coming in league with the devil, or that it's not right, and that's just old rhetoric. That's just old dogma from religious or other organizations that want to kind of hold you back for their own prosperity. But and practice, practice with a friend, just practice meeting of the minds at a certain time for 10 minutes a day, and send a thought or a visual to your friend and see if they pick on it, and let them send you something, and you write it down, and then you check with each other, and pretty soon you start to notice you're starting to get bigger and bigger hits, right? The other thing is to really, again, it goes back to being in that higher vibrational state. So being in a joyful state, a loving state, a grateful state, a forgiving state, a state of being in service, that raises your vibrational frequency. And when your vibrational frequency is at a pretty high place, and it's sustained there for any amount of time, then stuff starts happening for you. You don't even have to try. It just starts falling into place. And I think that's the main thing. But again, to raise your vibrational state, it's helpful to meditate. And I'm not talking about just sitting on a cushion for 30 minutes at a time and chanting Om or something, or trying to ignore all your thoughts, because that's impossible. But it's about finding a place of ease in your soul. So maybe it's taking a walk in nature, or maybe it's drawing, or playing music, or dancing, or cooking for your family. They're called flow states, right? In the corporate world, we call that a flow state. When you lose your sense of time, when you lose your sense of the needs of your body, and you lose kind of your sense of the outside world or the environment. So I know, Rob, you've probably experienced this at some point in your life, where you were really engaged in something, maybe even the show, and you're like, wow, that time just flew by. I didn't even realize it was that time. And I didn't eat breakfast or lunch. I was so engaged in that. I didn't notice my body. Or somebody might be telling you, you're engaged in painting or writing a book or something. And someone's like, dude, don't you hear the fire alarm going off in the building? It's time to get out of here. And you didn't. That's a flow state, which means you're in coherence. You're in that high vibrational state. So anything, dancing, yoga, anything, playing with your puppy, those kind of things raise your vibrational state. So try to raise your vibrational state as much as possible, as often as possible, and you'll start to notice synchronicities, like, when your best friend's getting ready to call you on the phone, or you will be able to finish somebody else's sentence that you're with, or suddenly you get a bright idea about something, and it's the best thing that could have ever happened to you, where you were really struggling to find that thing. It's just easier to connect to the quantum field where all information lies when you're in a higher vibrational state.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's awesome advice too. That exercise of writing something down, and that is a good one right there. And I could see how that would sharpen your ability, and you get direct results to know if you are progressing. So that's actually really cool. What I was going to say was, the synchronicities, and, there was a time when, and not actually too long ago, because I feel like I've always been unlocked on certain things just due to my creativity and things of that nature. But as far as getting into this consciousness and understanding what all this is, and kind of putting names and definitions to the things that I'm experiencing, it's strange because before that point, I would look at meditation and psychics and things of that nature and be like, well, I can't connect the dots on how that is possible. And I feel like there's people out there definitely are people out there who also see it that way too. They just don't get how a person, a physical person, is able to tap into this consciousness like that. So they look at it as something that isn't real or isn't possible. But then once you get on this side of it, then you see how everything does make sense now when you get the explanations, and you realize that deja vu is a part of that. And because before you really had no definite or way to explain what that was, you just for some reason know you had deja vu. But once you get on the consciousness side, then you understand that this is like one of your superpowers.
Yes.
And there's so many more for you to unlock. I was like, we have, in our physical being in society, we know of the 5 senses that we have, but we have probably 15 senses, ones that we haven't tapped into yet.
Yeah, I think everything is infinite, including our senses. I mean, we just don't know it. We don't know what we don't know, especially in this little spacesuit, right? We couldn't hold all that information in that operating system, the brain. But it's just allowing yourself to let go of preconceived notions, childhood indoctrination or media programming, all of that, and just allowing yourself to be like a little kid who's full of wonder, right? When you were a little kid, anything was possible, wasn't it? You believed anything was possible.
Yeah.
Well, it's the truth. Anything is possible. We are unlimited, infinite beings with infinite superpowers, but they're just, a lot of them are in sleep mode right now, just because, and this is a big one, and this is going to hurt some feelings, but we overstimulate ourselves and become very attached to the third dimensional physical world, which is not, it's very hard to access from 3D, all of that other stuff. So, you know, we have our cell phones, we have our computers, we have our TVs, we have constant stuff just coming at us all the time. And with all of that static, all of that stimulus, it's really hard to break through to the great universal stream of consciousness. It's the biggest streaming device we have. And it all comes through the technology of a little bitty thing in the center of the top of the head of the brain called the pineal gland.
Yeah.
And so again, on the website, or if anybody, you know, even just wants to get in touch with me, I can send you, I have a little tutorial that helps you clarify and balance everything and access through the pineal gland. It activates the pineal gland. It's kind of like a cosmic satellite dish. So, and then you can get into the field. And when you do, you start, you know, realizing your superpowers. You can have out-of-body experiences. You can do astral travel. You can remote view. You can have, I don't call it telepathy. I call it telepathy, because it's reading people's thoughts, but also the feelings. So telepathy, psychic stuff, mediumship, all of that stuff, healing powers, all of that is our purview. But we have to be in a high vibrational state to be able to connect to it. Just like, you know, I can hold this cell phone up to my ear all day long and not hear anybody on the other end until I dial a number, or it dials the number, it connects me, right? You have to have a connection. This is a good example. This runs on frequencies, you know, just like every bit of electronics. Do you know what powers this? Crystals. Do you know what powers the pineal gland? Crystals. It's full of these little crystals. And so the process that I teach people, it's really simple. It's a little bit of breath work. It's a little bit of using your vocal cords. It's a little bit of relaxing and getting into a meditative high vibrational state. And then suddenly you're streaming.
You make so much sense, Debz. That's why I love to talk to you, because you make so much sense. And, you know, the example that you give of a child being born is completely open to all possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And then the problem ends up being when fourth, fifth, sixth grade, when they put you into the societal bubble, then it kind of blocks all that off. It kind of suppresses your natural capabilities. And I would wonder, like, if a kid, we will have this soon, once we are fully enlightened, if you could do a trial where you took a child, and I'm sure there's an example of this, and kept that child away from society, and allowed that child to grow and develop just as a human in the natural world, I wonder what that outcome would be. It would probably be amazing.
Look at indigenous peoples who still live, you know, in the natural ways of their ancestors. The Aborigines, some of the people in the Amazon, some of the people up in the mountains of Peru, the Native Americans who have not lost touch with their traditions. They're all over the world. There are large communities up in the taiga, in the Siberian forests, who are also indigenous, who live this way, and their children are brilliant. They're just brilliant. These people are brilliant, and they're so happy, and they're so healthy. So, you know, it's just that in our culture, we tend to want people to conform, right? And we want to be part, you know, it's a survival mechanism actually of the human being to want to stay in the protection of their tribe, right? So you don't want to stand out too much, because then you might be ostracized and kicked out of the tribe, and then the saber-toothed tiger is going to get you. So that's the thinking, you know. but it's not true. The individual allowed to blossom on their own through natural resources, and, you know, listening to their elders or whatever, as they pass down information. It's very important, and it's a very good way to do that. But we just get so gummed up with, you know, minutia and trash. You know, again, if we go to the analogy of the brain being our it's our operating system, but it's full of spam and junk mail.
Yeah, bloatware.
Right.
Yeah.
So what was I going to say about that though? It's very important, and like you said, it is happening. It's very important that we realize, and this is proven, babies, human babies up to about the age of 7 are almost consistently, their brain waves are in theta, the same state I was telling you about where we access the quantum field. It's also the deep state that we get into when we're in quantum hypnosis. Okay. And that is a state of very relaxed, but very focused attention where you can learn and access anything really quickly. So that it makes sense that our babies would be in that state, because that's the period of time where they have to kind of learn, you know, so that they can survive, that they learn how to, you know, get attention. They learn how to turn over. They learn how to crawl. They learn how to walk. They learn how to talk. And about age 7, they start to learn to, you know, read and write and do math. And that, though, is where we screw things up, because then we start to try to get them to conform, you know, in schools and do things like everybody else. And so that brings them back into the beta state of like where we all are. It's just, it's just being attracted to all of the static, right? In the physical world. Theta is where the money is. It really is. So, but when we look at indigenous cultures, people are still, you know, if you were to put them, hook them up to electroencephalograph machines, and measure their brainwave frequencies, even the elders are still in theta, especially like the Aborigines. They're a good example. Why? Because they never allowed themselves to get all caught up in all of this outside stuff, you know, just enough to survive and take care of the spacesuit, but not attached to it.
You know, I'm when I think about, as we're having this conversation and processing information here, it makes me think then, like what we consider to be our inner child is, I think, us subconsciously identifying that being open essentially is what that is. The inner child, just you're open to not being trapped inside of this small little shell. You're just open to so much more. And maybe that's what we're seeing when we identify that we have that inner child. And I'm thinking about it, and I would probably ask you, do you identify with the inner child inside of you? Is it something that you consider still there?
I absolutely do. I always make a joke of, you know, when I decide, I'll decide what I want to be when I grow up, if I ever grow up. I'm 68 years old. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I just, I'm having too much fun being me, right? And so I always try to remember how good it feels to be that little child full of wonder, with no fear. You think about it, when you were a little kid, most of us, you know, sometimes we'd even skip breakfast and run out, couldn't wait to run outside to go play. We didn't have a plan. We didn't have any rules. We didn't have any like boundaries of, oh gosh, I can't just run out the door because the boogeyman's going to get me. Nowadays, it's a lot different. But when I was a kid, we ran free. And we didn't come back, especially in summer, we didn't come back till it was time for supper. And our parents were fine with that. They knew that we were going to be okay. But my gosh, did we have adventures? I mean, whether it's just lying on the ground and looking really closely at the blades of grass and the ants walking around in there and all of that, or going off and playing in the woods or riding your bike, that feeling is the feeling that we should be feeling every day, guys. It's the feeling of liberation, of freedom, because we are ultimately all free beings. We're just free, unlimited souls, but we've bought into the illusion that we are this thing here that is so limited by the physical constructs of the body and our environment and our society. And we're not. We're completely free.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about that. And those people who don't identify with the inner child are the ones who are just trapped in this matrix and have lost touch with the fact that you're more than what society tells you that you are. And that's why I've never understood why someone says, "Oh, you're old, you shouldn't dress like that," and it's like, well, why? Well, why does that make any sense?
I get it all the time, and I'm like, who cares? We live in a society that is built on fear because that's an easy way to control people. Don't dress that way or you'll be, everybody will reject you or laugh at you or whatever. So what? There are just as many people who would delight in however you're dressing, or don't choose that vocation, it's no good, it's not going to make you any money. Well, so what? If it brings you joy, usually when you're joyful and you're really enjoying what you're doing, abundance seems to just fall in place for you. And abundance really isn't so much about having a certain amount of money. Abundance is having what you need when you need it. That could be resources or friends or time or opportunities that you couldn't see when you're busy plugging away at the 9 to 5. Although I've never worked a 9 to 5 job, I think that's a myth. My jobs always started earlier and ended later, but you know what I mean. The conventional way of doing things in our society is it's just a construct. It's just something that somebody made up, and everybody agreed that we're all agreeing, even if we don't like it, we're agreeing this is the way things are. And you hear people say that all the time. Well, that's just the way things are, or it is what it is. But it doesn't have to be. If you're brave enough to go into the abyss of the unknown with some excitement and some wonder, the unknown is where all the magic happens. That's where everything in the quantum field exists, and you can cherry pick what you want. You don't even have to try.
Yeah, if I want to play with build-a-blocks, then that's what I'll do. I don't care what my age is. I don't care. And I think, just making light of that, but I think it really does. I think that for someone who wanted to look at this logically, could probably look at that and see that just that feeling alone, identifying the inner child, and then why that is even a thing, opens you up to realizing that what you're really feeling and what you're seeing is that there are things within you that you have yet to explore or yet to unlock. It's almost proof of that.
Yes.
And so that's kind of exciting and amazing at the same time. Yeah, I mean, I could, man, I love this. I could get in
we could rip on this all
forever. But okay, so let's do this. The superpowers is an awesome topic, but let's get into let's see. Okay, let's get into contact. Contact with you in your bio, consciousness, ETs, interdimensionals, orbs, celestials, ultra terrestrials. So what do you mean by that? And you know, obviously this is one of the superpowers, but how can someone, what would you recommend for someone to be able to kind of go down that path to experience that?
To experience contact with many different kinds of beings
Yes.
of consciousness.
Just opening that channel up, I guess.
Same thing we've been talking about all night. Get
Just
into a high state of vibration. And meditation is a really good one, but whatever makes you happy, in a positive feeling state, loving, peaceful, grateful, you know, all of the, when you think of your positive emotions, and everybody might want to do this at some point, just write down on a piece of paper every positive emotion you can think of. And then on the other side of the paper, write down every negative emotion that you can think of: fear, anger, resentment, disgust, you know, whatever. Those negative emotions, when you think about how they make you feel when you're in them, they feel very low and heavy. They're a very low vibrational state. When you think about what it feels like to be excited, passionate, grateful, victorious, you know, your heart wants to leap out of your chest almost on some of those. That's a high vibrational state. Strive to find a way to keep yourself in that high vibrational state, and you will be making contact with these beings. Why? Because they're not out there or up there. They're here. Remember, all energy exists. It can neither be destroyed or created. It exists forever, all in one place, in different forms of vibrational expression. So when you're in a high vibrational state, then you're able to perceive the beings who are in that high vibrational state, right? So when you are in a low vibrational state, you may also encounter beings, but what are they going to be like? They're going to be scary monsters. They're going to be demons. They're going to be, you know, that's how you're going to translate that. So the higher the vibrational state you can get yourself into, the more you're going to perceive ETs, angels, you know, whatever, interdimensional beings, whatever you want to name them. They're just all here all the time. Like you said, you know, before you got your Ring cameras and started catching orbs on them, did they just show up when you got those cameras? No, they were already there. But the Ring camera is able to, and some of our smartphones are able to capture more frequencies than our human eyes can capture.
Yeah.
And that's why we're so able to capture them now and see them. And it's fascinating. You're like, oh my gosh, did they all just show up? Well, no, they've always been here, but you weren't able to perceive them because you weren't in the right frequency. Before long, you'll be able to see them all the time without these devices. And that's where we're heading, actually. We're heading back to our true selves, which is, you know, we're able to perceive those things. But again, there's some tutorials and exercises on my website that can help you get there. Or I'm happy to work with people to get them there. I have an online school called the Quantum Dojo, but it's been on hiatus for a couple of years just because I don't have time to consistently teach in it. But that's kind of what it's like. It's teaching people in groups. So these retreats kind of are the things that I use now to teach with, just because it's so hard to get to everybody, you know, personally. But yeah, meditation of any sort, and there are so many different, there are infinite ways to meditate, guys. Don't get hung up on the one thing that you saw in a movie or read in a book. Meditation is just a place of being at peace and relaxed enough where you can tune in, and that's all it is. So however that However you get there is easy.
Now, let me ask you this. So, being the way that society has negatively affected humanity for as long as it's been around, and we've been stuck in this cycle, this wheel, it- a lot of us, I'll say a lot of us, I think most of us probably have some sort of probably need to try to tackle or deal with mental health when it comes to uh making this transition, right? So kind of when I had healing humanity's mindset, like what would be a vision or an outlook, some steps that could be taken to kind of deal with, because I think for sure in this disclosure process there's going to be people that don't have the mind to accept what's going on or where we're going to.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think we could do to try to address those issues or those individuals?
Well, that's a very important question, and thank you for bringing it up. And that's why I want to talk to everybody listening. Whenever you're listening to this interview, it's up to each one of us to help those people. You're always ahead of someone else, even if you're just beginning all of this journey, right? It's up to us to help others. But, you have to let them ask you. You don't want to interfere in their journey either. If their journey is living in lack or sadness or whatever, you don't just go in there and start beating them over the head and saying, you need to meditate, or you need to get out in the sunshine, or you need to do this or that. But if someone comes to you and says, hey, you seem to be in a pretty cool place. How did you get there? Share what you know. And everybody can be a teacher. Everybody can help each other. This impactful thing that is getting ready to happen, that the teachers keep telling us and all of these other beings keep saying, there's something going to happen, where people have to come together and work together, and that's what kind of propels us into this new state of being. When this happens, there are going to be a lot of people who have never heard any of this stuff before. And there are a lot of those people who are in a very dire mental and emotional state, right? The way you can help them is by being kind, compassionate, accepting, listening, be a good listener, offer assistance. If you see there's a person starving on the street and you have 2 apples, give them one. It might be as simple as that. The simple act of making eye contact with a person every day, saying hello and smiling, may literally change their life. I have a story that I like to tell. We're running out of time. I won't tell it tonight. But literally changed a person's life who was getting ready to go commit suicide. And I said good morning to them and smiled. And they felt like they were seen. They had felt so invisible for so long that they were going to go kill themselves. And instead, they turned and went and sought out help down the street at a Salvation Army. And it changed their life. They came back a couple of years later and said thank you. And I didn't even remember them, because it was just something I do, hug someone. But share what you know when you're asked, without preaching. Just share it from your heart. And that's how we do it.
That is awesome. And and it's putting positive energy out there. If you're doing that, then you're going to be doing exactly what you just said. And that's what I do as well. And it's a natural thing. I just, say hi to everyone that I come across. I look them in their eyes, and make that soul connection. You know what I mean? And you're right, because you never know, that could be the best thing that happened to that person that day. And I think everyone should obviously do this, but I think we should, set something up. I don't know how you could formulate something where you have a group that specifically deals with, the mental side of disclosure. And maybe that's something we can talk about on the next time.
Maybe so. I do have an experiencer group called the Vortex that I meet with every month, and I do work with them. And most of those people are highly traumatized and very intimidated at first, and but somehow they find it, and we get in there. There's also really big groups, like Opus is one. Many groups where people can, get help. MUFON even has a wonderful experiencer resource team. So there are places people can turn, and I'm part of those groups, and I'm happy to help. They always are wonderful and refer people to me. But yeah, again, if you guys, if you like what you hear here, get in touch with me, and I can either, get you in my group, or I can, whatever feels better to you, I can, at least steer you a different way. There are groups out there, and they're growing. And if you feel called to help, maybe you start your own group in your own neighborhood. Be brave. Don't feel freaked out that you don't think, oh God, I don't have a degree in this or that or whatever. If you are a person who has come through something and come out on the other side successfully, and then I think it's important for you to share that with others, and help them. It's kind of that thing that they do in Alcoholics Anonymous, become a sponsor to another alcoholic.
Exactly.
Right? That's how we change this.
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah. That is awesome, Debz. We moved the needle again tonight, and I totally appreciate you coming on. And that's why, it's just a beautiful thing. And I love having these conversations, the ones that matter, you know what I mean, and resonate. And this will be in perpetuity. This will be here forever for someone to watch and listen to. And I'm just glad that you are out there doing the work. And I'm glad that we were able to do this tonight. So thank you for coming on.
Rob, thank you so much. You always give me such a wonderful platform to just, riff with everybody. The chat tonight has been incredible. Your listeners are amazing. And I just love all of you. And I just thank you from the bottom of my heart to let me come on and, do my thing. I'm nobody. I'm just a person who loves other people, and I want to help. So thank you for allowing me to do that.
That is very important, Debz, to be that type of person. And where can everybody find you?
Website is debzshakti.com, DEBZSHAKTI.com. And most social medias are under that name, except for Facebook, which is DL Buller, BULLER, which is my legal name. But if you go to the website, you can get all of my other socials and contact me directly and see, you can learn a little bit about who I am more than what I was talking about tonight, because I've lived a long time, so I've got a lot of cool stuff in there. I've crammed a lot into this 68 years of this spacesuit. So,
well, we have to do this again. We'll be on break. Me and Dave, we're taking like 2 to 3 weeks off at the end of July, just shutting it down and revamping a lot of the stuff we're doing, and then we're coming back. So I would love to have you back, like as one of the first guests coming back. We can go ahead and set it up. Okay.
Yeah.
You heard it here. Debz Shakti, everybody. Thank you so much, Debz. Enjoy the rest of your night. Have a great weekend. Take care, and we will talk soon.
Much love, everyone. Bye.
Take care. Bye. Yes, guys. Healing humanity's mindset and enlightenment. Moving the needle with these conversations, guys. Some people don't like this side of it or don't like this aspect. Some people want to come in and hear spooky stories and things of that nature. What moves the needle? What moves us closer to where we're trying to go, right? That's what I do. That's what I want to do, and that's what you have here on the After Hours. Like it or not, I mean, it's something that needs to happen, and it's something that we'll continue to do. So I appreciate everybody being here. We're going to go ahead and take a pause for the cause as we get ready to jump into our final break of the night and
conversations
get
that
with
move the
Travis
needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
Welcome back, everybody. Spaced Out Radio After Hour number 3. Man, we're having an awesome show. I really want to thank our guest again, Debz Shakti. Great person. And second time we had her on. So if you love this conversation, jump back in our archive, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, where we had another awesome conversation. And, those are the type of people that I like to bring in through the show. And yeah, if you guys have any suggestions for guests, I know I haven't done this in a while, but definitely let me know. You can actually leave a comment in this on this video, or hit me up on Facebook in the After Hours chat, or Rob G on Facebook, and put who you would like to see on the show. Preferably someone who moves the needle, right? Someone who will come in and have a great conversation. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into the hour 3 with our guy. You see it on the screen. Paranormal reporter with who? None other than Travis Moostus. Let's go ahead and bring the big guy in. How you doing, Travis? What's going on? How you doing this Saturday?
Double
Yeah.
win.
That's how I feel too, man. I want to say that too, man. So you said it for me. That's the energy that I have right now, and that's what I feel. We got Christine in the audience saying Moostus. Moostus.
There we go. There we go.
Yes. What up, Travis boy? Okay, yes. Travis is here in the building, and yeah, I love having you here, man, because I love getting your perspective, point of view on a lot of the things that we talk about. Before we jump into it, have you had anything going on, anything to report, any not necessarily just for you, anything you may have heard or anything that's going on out there?
Yeah, like a lot of around this time of year, there's a lot of spiritual activity, and this tends to lead to a lot of I should say visitations and different type of orbs and I should say spirit apparitions that tend to can be seen or people are feeling the presence of. And my buddy ended up sending me a picture there of it was like what was it, this is an example though, this is a while back. Right now though, at this time, I should say, is like there has been a lot of reports of different kind of, like, I should just say, different activity, people seeing the orbs and in the trees and lights around in the skies and stuff. So it's been kind of active in that sense. But I have a picture that's just like from a while back, an investigation me and my bro were doing, and I should say, it's in your messages. I sent it to you there, and it's like in the evening time, and it's like flying across the roof of his house. And this is like from a image of his indoor cameras, but this is from a while back, and I just figured I'd share that just as like a little I should say,
bringing that up here. Let me see.
It's pretty cool, like, as like example of that type of operations or visitations that are happening and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a nice image.
I see it here. Let me bring it up on the screen.
And you can see it like moving through the rooftop. Like it's like not moving, but like floating or flying through. Yeah, you can see the energy waves.
Yeah. That right here. This reminds me of the thing that I caught on film. That energy that almost like an orb essentially.
And it's flying, going by, right? And the camera's catching that with its, and the speed of the camera, right? So that was a great image, and I figured I'd share that here and show, like, just as an example of that, right?
Yeah,
What we're
yeah.
doing out there.
As we talked about energy today, actually, we had Debz on, and we talked about, potentially what, well, we know energy exists. We know this same energy exists from here throughout the universe. It's everything that powers everything. We are that energy as well. And I think, when we capture stuff like this, just like she was saying earlier, like we're looking through another spectrum, being able to see the energy, like visually see the energy. And, was this on a Ring camera also?
Yeah, indoor ring camera kind of deal. Yeah.
Okay. So for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, and whatever spectrum Ring is looking in, it's I don't know if it's the night vision, I don't know what it is, but it's able to pick these things up. And we talked about how when I did research after I had my orbs, I went online. First thing I always do is go and see who else experienced this. And I was finding so many different examples of these things, or this energy, or these orbs showing up on these Ring cameras, that it just made me feel like, or led me to believe, that what we kind of already know, which is this energy is everywhere and we just can't see it with our own eyes. It's taking us to look through another spectrum in order to see it. But it just kind of, just like it with science, or, we put out the theories and then those theories end up being proven. And it's kind of the same thing here, where we always felt like, or, that energy existed everywhere, even within us. And then, courtesy of Ring, we get a chance to visually see that, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, and like the whole like the video that he sent me was like a couple of, like, I think it was like 8 minutes long or 6 minutes long, but he ends up, like, before that ends up, like, you see that he ends up hearing something in the house, like feeling a presence, and he gets up and he's like looking around and stuff, and then that ends up flying out of nowhere, like, out of the existence, right, flying by. So like I said, it was definitely visitation, and and he was he's been getting some pretty cool stuff like that, right? So, like, he'll send it to me and get my honest opinion, my what's my take on the situation, and we go over it a little while there. We have a few chats. I go over and do the spirit box every now and then, and yeah, we get some pretty interesting voices, different types, female and male, and it's very interesting stuff. So, like, it's a highly active place due to a lot of the underground waters and rivers that are running through there, and so I just figured I'd bring that on and show that, because that's pretty cool. But
that is awesome.
So this time of year is a great time, like high activity for a lot of the inner earth portals, and out, like, on the surface too, and from the like, I should say, the outer existence of our universe. And this connection brings forward a lot of these different cryptids and different beings that are able to travel to our earth and are into our realm, and are able to visit this certain point in time, I should say, in life and in this existence. And so there's a lot of that going on as well too, with people, I should say, if you're out there experiencing that or seeing that out there, or you're getting a lot of the ETs are coming around too, right? So people are having a lot of that happening, as well as getting a lot of visitations. And for most that don't tune into it, that it happens, like, a lot of times it's happening already, like you were mentioning there, Rob, with the unseen world. The spirit world it's always around us, right? And it's always going on, regardless of whether or not we are consciously taking effort to perceive it, right? So it's going to be there naturally. Everyone will eventually see this world for what it truly is. It just, at this time, it's still in the process of that transition, but in time it will take place, and people will start to experience more of these things and start to take into account for this other side of the existence, I should say.
Yeah, and I always, we talked with the guest yesterday, another awesome guest, Ronald Murphy, and we talked about if we were able to put on a magic pair of glasses that would allow us to see the unseen, would we see like cryptids and all these sorts of things just running around? Because, you know, when we talk about like the Bigfoot and even paranormal and just these things that are going on potentially like right in front of us, but in the next realm, that if we had the ability to see through that, like would we see, you know, all sorts of stuff. And I give you an example, like for instance, even though we walk around this earth as is currently, there's all sorts of radio waves and things that are all around us all the time, going through us, Wi-Fi and all these frequencies that are out there, that if you could put on a pair of glasses that would allow you to see that, you would literally see radio waves everywhere, all around you, just everywhere. And it's almost like we know that that's a thing because we get Wi-Fi, we get internet, we get radio stations, we, you know, so the proof is there that they're there. We just can't see them. And it's just imagining a world where you could put on a pair of glasses and see that, and you know, applying that to the whole phenomena side of it, where all of a sudden we're seeing these dogmen, these Bigfoot, and they're just walking around. They're just, you know, walking around doing their business. And I think that would be pretty wild, you know, if there was ever a time that came where we were able to peek in to that next, you know, to the other realm. You know what I mean? I think that'd be pretty wild. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's capabilities are truly there when we just when we tune in ourselves. You know, it's a matter of I should say when you're out there and you literally disconnect from all the other processes of this current world that we're so used of, and daily life that we're used of. And when you're out there in the wilderness, it takes a certain silence, and especially when you're just out there all the time, you connect with it naturally, and this frequency is perceivable, and that type of level of existence is quite I should say achievable, and people can perceive these beings out there, and different type of I should say cryptids and plant life beings, and different kind of insectoid beings, and different kind of like levels to animals, and even the rocks themselves too. So it's quite achievable when we truly are out there to connect with that, and that level takes place. So
yeah, and speaking of that, you made me think of something when you talked about like even the rocks and things of that nature. And there are people that think or have theorized that those are living things, right? Like the planet potentially is a living organism, and we live on it, and the earth is alive, you know, and may have a conscious well, and I guess if it's energetically attached to the energy that surrounds us, then, you know, why wouldn't it, right? I guess because like I told the guest earlier, Debz, you know, I had a theory on you know what consciousness is to our physical bodies, and trying to just have something that explains it, because we're stuck in a place where, you know, a lot of the top uh, people in the field look at consciousness and they're not sure if it exists in the brain, if it's in the brain, or how that actually works, how we are animated. And I was just like, maybe we just tap into that energy which animates us. And you would think if that's the case, then anything else that is able to receive the energy that surrounds us would probably do the same thing. So trees, grass, rocks, anything that contains the energy of the universe, I would think with that theory, should, would potentially or could potentially be considered, a life form, I guess. Yeah, if you understand what I'm saying, right?
Oh yes, it's the life within everything, and our relations to all that, and that's where what we're ultimately talking about was the connection through all life forms, and when it comes to native spirituality, we look at a lot of these beings, and like I said, it's a lot of these when the universe was first being created, and a lot of these beings, the plants and respects like of these like I should say rock grandfathers and grandmothers, they were very they were the first of us, right? Like the first of the beings out here, and we honor it in that way, right? Like the very building blocks of creation, right? And our connection to that. So it's like I said, we honor the very smallest of like I should say of our existence, the grand, right, of the universe itself. So it's like it's so it's very so it's very it's for us it's a deep connection when it comes down to like if we're making these offerings to different type of if we're there, if we're honoring these this I should say these stones that are going to be placed together to watch over us, or these the grandmothers that are there protecting us and stuff, our grandfathers that are there watching over us in that regards, right? That through these stones, and not only that, but the animal beings as well, right? So it's like it's a true tie to natures and animal, like I said, the true ties to nature, animals, and I should say plants, and all sorts of I should say the elements in general.
Yeah, I watched this movie called The Happening. I don't know if you've seen this movie, but it was the whole basis was that the plants were alive and they had like almost like an intelligence, and they were like taking over people and making them do things. And it was like a lesson to kind of respect nature, I feel like, at the end of the day. I don't know if you've seen that, but have you seen that, just first off?
Yeah, I did. I liked it. I thought it was a wild one of those wild films, like where nature's kind of like fighting back in that sense, like, and it's throwing this kind of like weird brain enzyme that's making people go wild or whatever.
Now, the crazy part about that is, like, when you look at a tree, you don't really think about a tree being alive. I mean, in the sense like a human being would be alive. It's alive because it's growing. But if you've ever, I don't know, like I used to grow plants, and when they're in that malleable stage where they can bend and move, you can bend the stalk before it hardens. It tripped me out because I was in an apartment, and I would sit them in the sunlight, and the sunlight obviously moves throughout the day. And when it would go out of the shade, or when it would go out of the sunlight, the plant would literally bend itself over and kind of try to reach for the sun rays, which used to amaze me. I mean, it made me feel like maybe there's more to plants being alive than just being. I did a show on my channel, Social Dig, where it was a show on consciousness. It's in my season 1 playlist. If anybody wants to go back and check that out, it's an awesome show. But we covered consciousness on that show, and I showed a video, which I can't show here because I got flagged for it when I showed it originally. But I showed a video where, for one, it showed that plants give off electric pulses. And so it showed that they do have that energy within them. And they used electricity to make the plant do different things. Like there's a plant that I forgot the name of it, but it looks almost like a fern, and it's really small, looks like a fern. And when you touch the small leaves on it, it goes into defensive mode and it curls itself up. It reacts to touch, which is insane. And so what they would do is they hooked up an electric charge to it and made it curl up on its own. And so it was exhibiting behaviors of something that you would consider alive, like an animal or a human. Have you seen anything like that? What do you think about that? I think that's crazy.
Yeah, there's there's some interesting things, like, you know, when sometimes when you're out there and, you know, it's well, from the stories it's being told, it's like when you're out there looking for some of these plants that are needed for, you know, certain ceremonies, or if there's things that people need in life, and you're looking for that, and sometimes the plants will just they'll appear for you, you know, and you'll find them, you know, for that reason. But if you're there for the wrong reason, you're trying to find plants to sell and make money off and profit off, then those plants, they'll show themselves, and then they'll just, like, a little wind will go by and the, you know, grass will wave and those plants will just be gone. and it's just like the power of that, right? And they're it's so it's like I said, they're alive, and a lot of the trees, like, they hold memories, and yeah, like I said, they're very it's very much connected through it at all, right? And so they know, and also too with the plants and how in regards to what you're out there for, and your intention through the energy, right? Like through that connection through the universe, and that's like what kind of like I said, that's what that connection is, right? So it's very interesting though, when you do say they're alive, or it feels like they're alive. They're very much alive, and it's.
I'm going to show this because this is only 42 seconds. So I don't think we'll get in trouble for this. So I'll go ahead and show this here. And actually, let me turn the sound off on it. But this is the plant. It's called the Mimosa pudica. So anybody research this plant. This and you'll probably find the video. It was a TED's Talk video featuring this plant, Mimosa pudica. So if you search TED Talk and then Mimosa pudica, then I'm sure you'll find it. But let me just show you, because I thought that was pretty awesome, and it kind of got me looking into it, because what it was it was showing that it has the ability, it has electronic pulses within it that makes it do that. Like, so there is an actual reaction to, and it is essentially exhibiting the sense of touch, which I think is pretty insane. What do you think after you see something like that? Isn't that crazy?
I start to think of all the other interesting plants out there and stuff too, right? Like all the, you know, the ones that are using their sense to catch flies and different kind of bugs and animals. Like it looks like a giant mushroom, but it's like it's called a dead plant or whatever. It's like a rotting plant or something like that. But it uses this funky smell to capture a bunch of animals, or bugs, and I should say, and then you get the vines in England, right? That capture sheep, and essentially, like, you know, just, you know, they die on the vines, right? They can't escape, and then the plants eat off of the dead sheep's remains, right? So it's kind of kind of wild, that one, right? So there's a few of them out there.
And then also the Venus flytrap is another one as well, right? Where it doesn't necessarily just react to touch, but it is smart enough to not close unless it knows that a fly has landed in it. And the way that it knows that is the amount of times that the hairs are triggered inside of the mouth of it. So if
Yeah.
you were to just touch the hair in there one time, it doesn't react at all. But if you kind of hit it a few times, 2 or 3 times, to kind of mimic something in there moving like a living bug, then it triggers it to close at that point. So there's some sense, it's almost a sense of intelligence. And it's crazy because, you don't think, people tear leaves off of plants all the time, and you don't really think of it being something that may feel, you know what I mean? And if it is something that goes deeper than our understanding of life, it may have a conscious to it. And it's just weird to kind of think that, but there's proof, video proof, that this is a thing. So I thought that was pretty amazing because, when you go into, like, even you said, native folklore, things like that, the plants and the earth are things that are looked at and spoken about as living things, right? Could
Yeah.
you
Or like,
verify that?
yeah, like as relation to us, like we're very much connected to them as it is connected to us. And like I said, we honor that for the fact that their existence was here before us, and we consider that one of the mountains to be some of the eldest, the oldest of the grandmothers and grandfather spirits that are here on this earth watching over us. And a lot of these places, and I should say a lot of like I said, a lot of the trees and I should say, a lot of the plants, a lot of the trees, and a lot of these medicines, they all have their meanings and like where they come from and how they make their connection to us. And for every one of them, which tells a grand tale of it all, right? And that's what I mean. Like it's kind of hard for me just to go up like into it without just like being there in the nature to explain it all, right? But it's there. It tells us about what about our existence and in the way it shapes and I should say it's the way it's beautifully designed.
Yeah, one other thing we talked about, Debs and I, we were talking about, being, when you're born as a child, you were so full of wonder and you're just open to all the possibilities. Nothing's impossible sort of attitude. And, also looking at it as society being something that kind of suppresses that ability within you to think outside the box. And we kind of got into indigenous native people who was a great example because it would seem that within tribes, because it's so close to nature and it's so close to the natural human being, that it's a reason why, within Native American folklore, a lot of these cryptid stories and these abilities to see things and shape shifting things and just all the stories that go along with folklore have to do with the fact that these are native tribes that have not kind of bought into the society that the rest of us live in. And I think I kind of said that to you before when I was like, I feel like, you know, a thing that we all need to do, because technically we all have a native tribe at some level that we should be reconnecting with, that kind of brings us back to the natural world. um do you feel like, and I guess you'd be the best one to ask this, do you feel like that's a true statement, that being brought up within the tribe that way and being so disconnected from the rest of what we call society kind of uh, opens you up to be able to see these other things that people within society can't see?
I say it's more, yeah, it's like the way our I should say, the way we live in our ceremonial ways and our spirituality, the ones that do live that way or process that that world in that sense, yeah, it does open you up, because you are opening up to that natural world. You are connecting on that higher frequency, so you do tend to connect with these other, I should say, other levels of existence, these other higher dimensional frequencies, and you know, these beings from other dimensions, right? So it's and not only that, but also the animals and beings and guardians of our own dimension and our own reality as well too, right? So it does open that up in the broad spectrum. But you know, it's there are some, like I said, some people that don't that don't, and they just choose to shut their own I should say, their own levels of perception off, right? And they tend to walk away and choose the easy, like this society that people live, like it's not that it's bad, it's just it's very easy for people to get caught up in it, and then the choices that they make ripple off sometimes in negative ways. And when you walk this path, of this, I should say, of the spiritual road here, this red road, this what I'm living in right now, currently, it's a lot of, you hold a lot of respect for the levels of spirituality, you know, levels of connection to nature and this universe, right? So, and the beings of all, right? And so what I'm getting at is, so when people tend to forget that and they close it off, then that's when they're, you know what I mean, like then that's when they get lost and locked into this just everyday modern day living society, and they choose to close off that those natural abilities that they are unaware that they have, you know. And that's just what it is, right? But for us that haven't, and that are perceiving these things, we are getting the messages, and we are seeing the, you know, the changes that are ahead, that are coming forward, and also too, we're perceiving I should say, a more centered way of living and connecting with this universe in this time. And that's honestly, that's there's nothing wrong with it either way. And the one part about a lot of the perceiving of this reality is, like, you're more or less, you're connecting with the higher frequency. You're not really looking for the darkness or I should say, are connecting with that, right? So it's more or less you're living with the universal light and on that path, and that's kind of like what you're connecting with is the higher beings, right? So, you know, and especially when you're on the, like, you know, this path, and you're doing a lot of the ceremonies, and you're participating and you know, in these actual, like, the real traditional ways, and like I said, you start to experience some of these dimensional beings coming through, you know, like full on animals that enter into these lodges and stuff, that are spirit forms. And like I said, they you know, it's pretty, you know, you experience these things, right? And then you go out in there into this other world, and you see a lot of these people, and you know, it's kind of like, you're like, yeah, you just know that there's more to it, right, than this reality, and they're just choosing not to see it. But it's, like I said, it's very easy for people to get caught up in that reality, but it's very hard to, when they want to be spiritual and they want to walk down that path, and it's very hard for them to open up again, because, you know, they've been so used to telling themselves and that it's not real, and that's a problem for that, because in the future you're gonna need that type of connection in order to fly these higher dimensional crafts, and also too, to perceive with a lot of these beings that are coming through, and that's just, you know, that's just part of it, right? So as for where it is right now with the, you know, with everything that in that regard is, like I said, this time's a very unique time for the universe, and you know, higher frequencies are flowing about, and that's where you get a lot of these cryptids and different kind of beings that are just, like I said, they're back around, and they're in the forests, or you know, they're lurking in the wilderness, and they're coming around and people are perceiving it, you know, and that's just part of that too. Like I said, with the higher frequencies, people's vibrational levels tend to kick up a little bit more, and these things are able to be spotted and seen or perceived by them, because they're, like I said, they're there at the right time of the universe to I should say, make that connection or experience that.
Yeah, you know, I feel like a way the whole enlightenment process is like you know, to give a visual, I think it's like a kid or a person that has been stuck in the house and you know, doesn't get a chance to go outside, right? And this is all you know is these four walls or whatever's in your home. And the enlightenment process is when you get to go outside, or even if you were outside, you only stayed on your block, right? And then you finally ride across town that first time and you realize, whoa, there's more to what's going on than just this little neighborhood that I'm in. And then even going past that, then the city, okay, and then now the United States, and then the world, and then the universe. Then that's like the enlightenment process that we go through. And it's just like to give a visual, because as bad as it, you know, is when you look at it that way, then you realize how trapped you are within, you know, society's bubble, how it's you're really confined to live within these certain parameters, and you're not encouraged to go outside of those parameters. But once you break away from society and you have that first moment where you're like, I'm going outside, and then you're like, whoa, I like it out here, and then you venture out further and further, and you're like, I'm never going back in the house ever again. And I think that's the enlightenment process, like just a metaphor, a visual for it. And it's kind of sad though when you look at that, because someone who stays in the house all the time, you look at them, you like, dude, go outside sometime. Where you know, you can go outside. You get that person to finally do that, and then they're like, wow, what have I been missing? And you know, I think that's kind of what we have to do with most of the people out here, is to get them to step outside the society's little bubble and understand that there's way more to just your own existence, and then all of our existences outside of that box. And you know, that goes to the catastrophic disclosure that I always talk about, because part of that process with catastrophic disclosure is to tear down the model of society that we currently have, which for people who are comfortable staying in the house, it's a scary thing. Like, I'm going to tear your walls down and you're just going to be exposed to the elements in the open, and that scares a lot of people. And you know, but it's something that we end up that we're going to have to do. And you know, it's just to be able to paint a visual for someone, I think you know, may help people get through that process, because people are going to have to be uncomfortable for a little bit, man. And but the thing is that it's your spiritual awakening at the same time, so it should be, you know, a happy thing, right? Whereas you may be scared at first of what it is that you have to do, or confronting this face on, but the end result is like your spiritual freedom. And you know, I think that's just something that I'm just finding different ways to kind of deliver that message, because I think it's important for people to know, or to understand completely what that process may look like. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do understand what you're saying. Yeah, it is there, that, you know, that essentially, like what you're saying essentially is just like to get somebody back into the bare elements, just to take it all in as a human existence, right? Is that that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, essentially the same thing that we're talking about. I mean, that's like going back to basics, back to our tribal roots, really, and tearing everything down that we understand, that we think is a normal thing as far as society goes. And kind of tearing that down and exposing ourselves to just being natural, connecting to our natural native roots. And because that's going to be the key. And it's just, anytime I talk about that, because like I said, David, he had asked one time, I forgot, we were doing the UFO report, and he had asked, like, what was the scariest part? What do you think to you is the scariest part of going through this process, disclosure? And I was like, just the fact that we're going to have to kind of strip ourselves of this society and kind of build back up, like kind of rebuild what it is that we are. And that's I'm just trying to find different ways of positioning that same idea, because it's something that I would hope could translate to maybe more people as far as the understanding of it, and maybe get more people behind what it is that we're trying to do. So that's kind of me just spitballing, really, and just thinking through live in the moment on just different ways that we could position this. So yeah, that's what happens with me, man. I kind of just think on the fly, dude, and kind of shoot stuff out. So, but I don't know, man. How do you feel about that?
Well, not everything like not everything about society is bad, or the way our future current civilization's going. It's all a time of there will come a time when people will, it will be understood again. And for me, it's more or less, it's more important for the respects to be understood, right? Like the connections and the respects to that, right? Like, and how that level, that world is perceived, and that's really where it is, right? And but as for the world in itself, that's a whole like I should say evolutionary process in itself, right? For us all as an existence to be like undertaking massive changes, like in our developmental ways, like when it comes to how we process our certain materials and what we leave behind as junk materials and things like that. That's it seems like that just seems part of the process. And yeah, that's for me, I have faith in that, but like I said, in time, these respects will be more out there and readily known, and that's where I'm more or less concerned about it, right? Is that people see the right messages and the right meanings behind them, right?
Yeah, and I agree with you on, there are definitely some parts of society that are beneficial, I think, but most of it just isn't, though. I mean, most of it just suppresses our abilities to think outside the box. It just keeps us trapped. But there are other ways that, like, we could restructure society potentially. Like, there's examples of that where they have I think they call them communes, where you have people that get together in these communities, and essentially each person takes on a job within that community. Like, one person does the farming, one person does this, one person does that, and so you are essentially working for your stay within that community. And it kind of eliminates the whole the idea of the financial structure, I'm not thinking of it, the God, I mean, I'm not thinking of the right word. It's the whole economic structure that we live in, right? So you don't need money essentially when you're in these communities, because everyone does their part to work. And I kind of think that, that might be an idea that we could go with to kind of keep some semblance of the togetherness that, society does bring us together, but it brings us together for the wrong reasons. And so when you have this commune, you're kind of coexisting with each other, and you're essentially just doing your part to make that community grow and become stronger. But you don't need the dollar doesn't matter, right? And I think that's probably one of the things that corrupts the society that we live in, right? Is probably the whole financial side of it, because it creates separation. This person has nothing, this person has a lot. And where in a community like a commune, everyone is equal essentially, right? So if we could get something like that going, then yeah, then I could see society existing. But you know, a good example is like when society came here and displaced the natives, right? And you know, the natives had their natural way of living, their natural way of life, and society comes in and it's like, hey, conform to this. A lot, some people did, but then a lot didn't, right? And it's like there's still that separation. And I think you have a good perspective because you get to have one foot, you know, in society, and then the rest of you over here on the native side. So you kind of get to see both sides at the same time, which a lot of us don't, you know, really get the chance to see. So that's why I think your perspective is unique, and why I like to kind of probe you with things like this.
Yeah, I was just yeah. Well, it's not so much like it's not so much like the whole like we're all equal, we're all free, but it's what it is the fact that we're under this idea of like I should say it's profit over like advancing the humanity, you know. Like people rather make money. That's why they keep certain technologies around, so that they continue to make, you know, squeeze out the last little bit of profit out of everyone, you know. And that's just really what it is. But yeah, you are right. I am on that I am seeing that point of view. You know, I do see this world that I am fighting to keep in history. Like I am doing a lot of work that is essentially going to be part of that history, right? And seeing and reading and seeing a lot of that, and then also too being part of that spirit world and stuff. And a lot of the young ones and people that are around nowadays, like like I said, it's very easy for people to fall and just lose connection and become part of just, you know, the greedier part of society, right? And just the ignorant part of it, right? That just wants to have it all and take it all and be it all, right? And that's just part of that that it goes against the nature of that, right? Of our of that look. And it's like that we're more of a connection and more or less of a caretaker, and more of being that kind of, like I should say, it's a connection, and it's a deeper rooted respect that goes along with never taking more than you need, and utilizing all the things that when you do take it, and everything has a meaning to it, right? And everything has a purpose right down to the guts, you know what I mean? Like, and of an animal, I'm just saying, like when we harvest an animal, we take everything and use it all right to the last, you know, and purpose of the guts too, right? So I'm just being honest with that. And yeah. And so
that's right, you're right. Yeah,
but like I said, it's always a very deep respect. Even while we're hunting and stuff, we pray. We'll give thanks and pray for that animal and that spirit of that animal before we take its life, so that it can make a easier travel to the spirit world. And that's part of that whole we'll use tobacco and like we'll leave tobacco with that animal, so that animal spirit can use the spirit of that tobacco to open that gateway to the spirit realm, the world, easier, instead of being lost and walking around the world or in this realm. So we honor that animal for giving its life to give us life. And that's like that's how that's looked at, right? So I just figure I'd mention that too, like because
that's great. Yeah, I mean, you essentially, that's exactly what I'm trying to get across, and I'm glad you put it that way and you said that, because that kind of puts the cherry on top for what it is that we're doing. And we, you know, it's a work in progress. I mean, we don't know exactly how we're gonna do this, or you know, what's the best step to take in order to get that end result, the thing that we want or hope to get out of society, or for humanity rather. And it's just cool to be able to sit here and talk through the stuff. So, and that's why, again, that's why I'm glad that I have you on here. Because you have that other perspective, and because I'm a person that thinks and thinks and thinks and always has a theory or something. It's just about, we have to do this in order to exhaust all of our options and come with something that will work. So with that being said, man, we're at the end of the show. So I do appreciate you coming on in, man. Awesome hour 3. We'll be doing this again, obviously, next week, guys. The fans love you here, the viewers, and we got to have you back, buddy. So we'll see you next week.
Right on, Rob. Thanks everyone out there. Appreciate it. Thanks for the time we shared here in the universe. I hope everyone has a great night out there. And thanks, Rob, for having me back. And I'll see you next week. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Ex Amaga.
Take care, man. Talk soon. Yeah. All right, guys. Yeah. Awesome deep show, right? Awesome, impactful, deep show. And that's why I say, I don't know if you've gone over to my page yet. I have a personal page, just youtube.com /@MrRobG, just like it's spelled up there. We have a lot of deep conversations over there too. Sometimes deep conversations are uncomfortable. Sometimes they're not fun, rather versus a fun story, a spooky, scary story, right? But it's just having real conversations about, things that really affect us and really pertain to where we're trying to go and what we're trying to do. Thanks for the super chat as well. I saw a super chat pop up. Actually, Maggie M10, awesome sauce. Thank you so much. And Kira, I am as well. Thank you so much, Kira. We do appreciate both you guys that support Spaced Out Radio. And this is an awesome show. We'll end it here. We'll wrap it on up. So let me go ahead and thank our super chatters for the night. We had Dev from Sacramento. We had W. Decker. We had Latchkey Hustle. We had Aloha Dave and Maggie M10, and also Kira I am. Awesome, guys. Really do appreciate all that support here tonight. We'll do this again very soon. Thanks for coming on in. Actually, I have to talk to the space travelers, right? You're already a space traveler. Consider taking the next step and joining the club. Become a space traveler for as little as $5 per month by joining our Patreon. To all our viewers and listeners around the globe, all around planet Earth, thank you for tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best. And what's that, you ask? We own the night, guys. Have a great rest of your night.
Conversations
Take
that
care.
Move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have Spaced Out Radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good.